let's just write some. Want that? Okay, workable. So, would you spell that for me, please?
Workable,
Perfect.
trainable,
Mm-hmm. Nice writing. I like able because it's easy to put at the end.
Mhm.
Okay, how about the next one?
portable,
What does that mean?
like you can take it anywhere.
Right, and you are able, it's,
Yeah.
it's able to transport. Good, next one.
Honorable,
Mm-hmm. What would that mean?
like
Can you use that in a
you're
sentence?
honoring someone.
Mm-hmm. You are able to be honored. Mm-hmm. If you were honored and or able to be honored, honorable, would that, what kind of a person would that be? Not
Or wait.
necessarily, it would, what kind of a character would a
Like-
person be if he were honorable?
Like,
Would it be a person that was always in trouble?
no, it'd be like a person that always do that.
Yeah, that did what was right. It would be an honorable person. You got it.
Agreeable,
Mhm. Is it always easy to be agreeable?
no, I don't know.
Not all the time. And sometimes you don't want to if it's not, if it's gonna lead you down the wrong road, right? Okay, let's do two more.
Remarkable, Mm,
You know, I think you are remarkable. I enjoy our times together, and you are a good swimmer, and you never give up, and you are just an awesome young lady. All right, how about the next one?
changeable,
Our weather lately has been very
cold,
changeable, hasn't it? All right. Please read a couple of sentences here. Let's do the first and second one.
the vegetables were fresh and yummy.
Mm-hmm.
Their living conditions were intolerable and deplorable.
What would that mean, intolerable?
Like, it's not good to live in.
Right.
Like, you
And,
can't.
and deplorable would be,
Like, bad.
probably filthy,
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of junk around it. And here's a little story that goes along with this.
Teachable. It's an admirable quality to be teachable. Read the following characteristics of a person who has a teachable spirit and considers having one too. Adaptable. Willing to change and learn new methods when needed. Favorable. Favorable attitude. Positive, can get along with most people. Knowledgeable. Desire to learn and grow. Likeable and agreeable. Is able to keep peace most of the time without compromising values. Employable. Making a good employee. Observable.
Observable.
Notice what needs to be done and what change needs to be made.
Say that word one more time.
Observable.
So where's the accent?
On the R. Or
Yeah. Let's do it with your hand.
Observable.
There you go.
Comfortable. enjoyable to be around, makes people feel welcomed, accessible and approachable. Others are drawn to them for advice, discernible, able to detect what is right and what is wrong, sensible, doesn't get sucked into fads or crazy ideas, steady, responsible, can be relied upon to make good decisions,
You know what this is?
teachable,
Yes, and you are all these things. You can say, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Isn't that quite a nice list? Give me 5. All right, kiddo. Well, it's time to read our story. What's happening in our story here?
you get the John getting all the toys that he wanted.
Did I make them up? Right here. All right. Let me erase that.
That's it, Susan said. That's why the horn was blowing. The horn is warning me. Just then a rumble filled the air. Neither child had noticed, but clouds had been gathering overhead for some time. A puff of wind swept over the dome. Yuck, the smell is terrible, Susan said. I feel like I'm suffocating. I'm getting out of here. She began paddling and turned the spirit flyer in the air. Wait, John yelled as she pedaled away. I'm going to need help with this stuff. At least carry a few gloves with you. But Susan was already halfway to the front gate. John waved to her to come back, and she shook her head. Chicken, John yelled. It's just a little stink. I'm going to be rich. I knew it. I just knew it. This is it. John jumped in the air with glee. But when he came down, his feet slipped on the dirt and he fell. That's when saw the shiny.
That's when
he saw the shiny surface.
That's when they have made an error. What did they leave out?
That's when he saw.
Yes, I just realized that.
He saw the shiny
shiny
black
black.
surface underneath the dirt. He sat up and brushed away some dirt. Just an inch below the surface, he uncovered more of the black shiny material that looked like black plastic or glass. Then he realized what it was, the black window. John frowned. The black surface below the dirt made him feel uneasy. But as he looked out over at all the opened and unopened boxes, his fear was replaced by desire. It feels solid enough, John said. He stomped on the ground. The black surface felt as hard as a rock. Thunder rumbled in the sky. The clouds above were swirling together in dark patterns. I better hurry, John said. I just can't leave all this stuff out here. But what should I pick up first? He ran to a closed box and slit the tape with the knife. Little plastic action figures fell onto the ground, still in their packages. John smiled and ran to the next box. He yelped with delight when he saw it was model trains and tracks. The next box had held more train stuff. The box after that was full of expensive leather footballs. I'm rich, John shouted, running to rip open the next box. The boy was so excited he forgot everything but his son's good fortune. But at that moment, a loud screeching noise shook the air and earth. The pile of boxes and toys began to shake and tumble. The whole dump seemed to be in the middle of an earthquake. John tried to run but fell down, hitting his nose on the hard black surface. He stood up through the dust and shaking boxes. He could see more of the black window. It seemed enormous, as big as the pit itself. John staggered to his feet and began running. As soon as he hit the bare dirt, the noise of shaking stopped. John paused, then turned and looked back. Several of the boxes had broken open, spilling toys out everywhere. Susan had watched the whole thing happen with great concern. She quickly turned her spirit flyer around in midair and flew to John's side. What was that, John? She asked. But before John could speak, the boxes and toys out in the center of the pile moved again. Both their mouths dropped open when they saw the head of a boy rise up in the middle of the toys. A baseball mitt was on the top of his head. He turned around slowly to look over to the children. Even with a catcher's mitt on his head, there was no mistake. The boy looked just like John Kramer, only you could almost see through him as if he were a ghost. "John," Susan whispered. The ghostly John smiled. He lifted the baseball mitt off of his head and looked straight at the real John. "We made a deal," the ghostly boy said in a quivering voice. "Do you want the toys or don't you?"
So what do you think he's going to do?
He's going to say, "I want the toys."
Okay. And do you think, what does this say?
A spirit flyer rescue.
What do you think that means?
Like that Susan's probably have to kind of rescue John.
Oh, it could be. It could be because she's got the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Both children watched with open mouths as the ghostly John began sorting through the toys in boxes. One by one, he carefully picked up the toys and began putting them in a pile. But before he had collected more than 7 or 8 toys, the box flipped over, and then another, and then another, and then another. The ghostly John stopped and looked, as the other children stared. Something was moving between the boxes, rustling and bumping as it went. A screeching metal noise suddenly filled the air again, sounding like huge freight trains, wheels grinding on gravel. More and more boxes moved and fell over. The thing that was causing the noise was slowly moving among the boxes.
Oh. Who was making the noise?
Those ghostly Johns.
Hey.
Then they could see it. At first, Susan thought it was a giant snake, but as it knocked more boxes out of the way, she saw that it was a huge chain moving heavily and slowly through the trash. It slid along, then disappeared back into the trash. The ghostly John looked worried. Then John and Susan saw why. A dark metal hook, the size of a garden hoe, was rising up from out of the boxes. The hook's sharp point was bigger than a man's head. It moved slowly toward the ghostly John. Before he could turn and run, the hook jerked down and seemed to catch on something. John thought he heard a clink. The hook disappeared into the trash. The ghostly John struggled and pulled back against some invisible force. Then he fell down into the pile. He looked over at John hopelessly. For an instant before going under, then everything was quiet. That's when Susan and John had seen enough. Susan was on her spirit flyer in a flash. John had picked up the Goliath Cobra Deluxe and was rolling it toward the front gate. But he had only gone 2 steps when he was jerked back. John fell down on the dirt and was clinging to the Goliath bike. But all the while he was being pulled back toward the pile of toys. He felt as if he was being dragged like a dog on an invisible leash. He tried to dig in his heels, but hit the shiny black surface. Just below the dirt, the window seemed to be everywhere. "Susan!" John yelled. Susan braked in midair at John's cry. When she saw him sliding backwards, she turned the old red bike around. It all happened so fast. She dove down into the pit, holding onto her handlebars with one hand. Her other hand reached out for John as he let go of the black bicycle and reached up toward her. An instant as they locked hands, the mysterious pull was broken. John sailed easily up into the air. Susan held on and aimed the bicycle higher. John swung his legs over the back fender and held onto Susan's waist.
Okay, what do you think John's thinking here?
Something's messed up, like something that's from the underworld.
Okay, and do you think he's changing his mind about
Yeah.
the spirit flyer?
Yeah.
Okay, and what's Susan thinking?
That he should have not done that. The spirit flyer was soaring high into the air toward Centerville within seconds. John looked back at the dump below. When he saw the new bicycle and the big pile of toys still waiting, his racing heart paused. When they got closer to the sleepy eye, Susan guided the bike down closer to the dump road. They were 1 foot off the ground as they passed over the old bridge that crossed over the river. The tires of her bike touched down slowly on Cross Road. John hopped off the back fender. Susan's braked and to a stop. They looked at each other without speaking, trying to catch their breath. I don't know when I've been that scared, Susan blurted out. That was spooky, John nodded. He didn't say anything. In spite of everything that had happened, the instant he felt safe, he began thinking about all the toys again. The toys and more toys were just waiting on the open ground, ready to be picked up. We need to have a better plan, John said. A better plan for what? Susan asked. To pick up the toys, of course, the boy said. I also want to get the Goliath Cobra Deluxe. They're worth over $200. Are you crazy? Susan asked. You mean you'd still go back out there after all of that? I don't believe it. But those toys are probably worth thousands of dollars, John said. I'm telling Dad, Susan said. I'm telling him and Mom everything that happened, and they won't let you go back out there. I want you to tell me what's going on. Maybe Uncle Bill would want to help me get the toys, John said, ignoring Susan. I wouldn't be as afraid with him there, would you? Now, I know you're crazy, Susan said. I can't believe you're seriously even thinking about those stupid toys. Maybe we should tell Mrs. Happy that those men didn't deliver those toys like they said they were supposed to, John said. Maybe she would offer us a reward for telling her that what really happened. I don't trust her, Susan said. I have a bad feeling about this whole thing, and it just keeps getting worse. You and your feelings, John said. You have to go by facts. That's what Uncle Bill always says. She seemed suspicious to me, Susan said. The black window was behind a store that she just bought. Besides, you were the one who was suspicious yesterday. You wanted to go there in the first place because you thought there might be something wrong with the toy store. I've changed my mind, John said. She's just a nice old lady. I don't think so, but maybe we should pay her a visit, Susan said.
And when you see that kind
Maybe
of
we
accent,
should.
but yes. Mm-hmm.
Susan said. I'd like to ask this Mrs. Happy a few questions. Maybe we should take Dad along too. And make her mad? John said. The grand opening celebration is this Friday. If you go accusing her of stuff like you did before, we won't even get a broken checker. I didn't accuse her of anything, and I won't, Susan said. She was beginning to get angry with John again. She felt as if she had practically saved his life, and he hadn't thanked her. He hadn't even apologized for lying the day before. And not only that they were arguing with each other over a bunch of toys. If we do go, I say play it smart and just mention with her toys and mention that her toys seemed to have been mistakenly dumped, John said. Let's just ride by there, okay? Susan said with a sigh. I'm all for that. She could see that John was determined to get something for all of his troubles, though she felt that all they were going to get was more trouble. John hopped back on the rear fender of the Spirit Flyer. Neither one spoke as they rode. When they turned the corner on Main Street, they stopped. A big tractor-trailer truck was parked in front of the toy store. Two men were unloading boxes and rolling them through the door. Mrs. Happy was on the sidewalk. Nell was sitting on her shoulder. That was quick, John said. She's getting new toys already? Let's go see. At that moment, Susan heard a horn blow. She felt sure the sound was coming from a horn on her Spirit Flyer. The sound stopped. I heard the horn again, Susan said. I I think the spirit flyer is trying to warn us of danger. Sure, Susan, John said. He laughed at her and began walking toward the toy store. Susan pedaled slowly down the block. They passed the truck and watched the men quietly. Tall words were written on the side of the trailer. Goliath Toys, giant of fun. Susan pedaled over to the store. When the old woman turned and looked at them, Susan felt uneasy again. Hi, Mrs. Happy, John said. The old woman smiled warmly at John. Then she stared at Susan. The crow on the old woman's shoulder leaned forward to look more closely at Susan. Mrs. Happy, as a good citizen, I think I really should tell you about something strange that just... I'm very busy right now, young man, Mrs. Happy said. I have this whole load of toys to check. They've just been processed and returned. I would love to stop and chat with you children, but I just can't. Please come by for our big grand opening celebration and get some free toys. They're new and improved, you know, besides being extra super special. But Dad trucked through a whole load of your toys and at the dump a little while ago, John said. I really can't stop and talk. I'm sorry, Mrs. Happy said. The twinkle disappeared from her eyes as she looked down at John.
What's happening here?
She's like...
Is she telling the truth?
No.
No? Okay. What else?
And she's gonna lie about it.
And so what about all of these new toys that are coming in and the old toys
They're
that are at
from-
the dump?
They're from the Underworld?
Yeah. Okay, so and she doesn't want to talk.
No.
She wanted to talk a whole lot
Yeah.
not too long ago.
No, she
Okay, so
doesn't.
now why?
Because they were talking about toys at the dump.
Okay, and does she want to go there?
No.
No, because what's her issue here? What does she want to do?
She wants to do it herself.
Well, do you think that she's above board? Is she
No.
really telling the truth here?
No.
They're trying to get these kids
Yeah.
under their power.
Yeah.
Okay, so does Susan feel the
Mhm.
same way?
No.
She's thinking something's up.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't stop, Nail the Crow said in a squeaky voice. Let's go, Susan said. Bye, John said. But the old woman didn't seem to hear. Nail the Crow, however, kept looking at John and Susan. The dark little bird watched the children pedal away. When they turned the corner, the crow fluttered up into the sky. Barry Smetho stepped out of the toy store onto the sidewalk and watched Nail fly away. He struck his fist into the palm of his hand. After John, Susan, and the strange black window had all disappeared in the alley behind the toy store, the leader of the Cobra Club had been both afraid and frustrated by the whole incident. Barry had ridden his bicycle around town looking for the two Kramers like a hungry shark, searching for escaped prey. He had stopped by the toy store when the Goliath toy truck arrived. Mrs. Happy had let him come inside to watch the men unload the boxes. When Susan and John rode past the toy store, Barry had hidden behind a large box by the front door. He was sure that neither of the Kramer children had seen him. Why? What was John Kramer saying about a load of toys at the dump? Barry asked as Mrs. Happy carried a small box from the truck into the store. I'm rather busy now, the old woman said over her shoulder. Perhaps it's time we ran along. But John said he saw a bunch of your toys that someone threw out at the... Mrs. Happy closed the front door. Barry looked up and down Main Street. In a moment, he was running for his bike, which was locked in the clubhouse behind the alley. Mrs. Happy pulled back one of the dark curtains and watched the boy running down the street. A smile spread across her face. The little fools are predictable as a clock, she said to herself. Then she began to laugh. Too bad the bird brain isn't here to see an operation executed in the proper fashion. I'll deal with him when he returns. She walked back to her desk and sat down in front of the black window. She got a long hook from her carpet bag. She watched the president of the Cobra Club pedaling down across the road. She smiled once more, then leaned back in her chair and the hook waiting in her hand. At the right moment, she pushed the hook through the darkness and pulled hard.
Whoa, 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 whoa. She is up to no good, right? You did a great job today. Welcome. And I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. What are you going to do this weekend?